Now what we have up here is a rhythm that we're going to look at for our swing style. If you look at the rhythm below, you'll see one quarter note followed by two eighth notes, another quarter note followed by two other eighth notes. The regular count how we do this is 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a. And even sizzle to yourself too, so that way you get a feel of how the ride cymbal is going to sound. In this case, in case you're wondering, how do I know if I'm doing those two eighth notes correctly in the swing style? If you look above, the two eighth notes below will equal to how a swing style will look like when playing, or sound like when played. In this case, the two eighth notes equal to a dotted eighth note going into a 16th note. So it's 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a. Or, as you can see further below now, from bones, chicken bones, chicken bones. You can even use different sort of symbols. Do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 skeep-ba-doo. In this case, if you just want to have a little fun with your students, or even a little bit of fun with yourselves, but at the same time make it teachable to where they can understand the rhythms a lot more better than counting, you can also give these sort of symbols. Do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 skeep-ba-bones, chicken bones, chicken bones, chicken bones, chicken 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1. As you see above counts 2 and 4, there's two letters that say HH. Those HH syllables are going to be known as the hi-hat. So while the ride cymbal is playing the rhythm, do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 skeep-ba, that's where the hi-hat will come in on counts 2 and 4. Do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 skeep-ba-doo. So just think about ski as your hi-hat. Do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 skeep-ba-doo. So now let's go ahead and get right into that rhythm. Just remember, 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a, or if you prefer, bones, chicken bones, chicken bones, chicken bones to the next one. Scoop boo, skeep ba doo, skeep ba doo, skeep ba doo, skeep ba doo. So what we want to do right now is we're going to go ahead and start off with the ride cymbal first. It's just to get you guys weaned into it. So we already remember that rhythm. 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a. Now, we're going to go ahead and introduce our hi-hat to counts 2 and 4, or if you're thinking about the syllables that I gave earlier, those are always going to be on the ski or the chick. Do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 skeep-ba-doo. So, here it goes, bones, chicken bones, chicken bones, chicken bones, and... That's just on the outer rim of the ride cymbal. Let's say the director or you want that sound a little bit more confined. Then in this case, you bring it around here to the dome cymbal, or the dome area of the ride cymbal. So we remember that rhythm again. Do, skeep-ba-doo, 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 and... One thing that I failed to mention earlier, when it comes to the hi-hat, you got to be very careful that when you press it the first time, hold it down until you have to come back in on counts 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what my foot is doing is my foot is holding down the pedal as soon as it hits 2, because what happens if you pick it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's already giving that loud reverb, that loud sustain that is not really suitable in most occasions for a swing tune. So in this case, always keep the foot down as soon as you hit it on 2 and on 4, and just keep it close. So if we try that again, 1, 2, a 3, 4, a bones, chicken bones, chick-a-doo, skeep-a-doo, skeep-a-doo, here we go, and... That's just on the dome. Outer rim. that's how we start off first with the cymbals. Now introducing bass drum and snare drum. Now, introducing bass drum to snare drum with your swing style. So, in this case, if you were to ask yourself, the director, or your student to go ahead and, hey, do me a favor, give us a swing style, more than likely they're probably going to give you something like this. They're not going to know exactly what you mean because, one, they probably have never heard of a swing style before. They may have heard it in music, but hearing of it playing wise, they probably have never done that before. So how to gradually get yourself as well as a student into combining both bass, snare, and the two cymbals together. Always remember that in swing style, the most that you'll hear out of a trap set are going to be ride and your hi-hat. You will still hear the bass drum and you'll still be able to hear the snare, just not so loud. We're going to be using the term feathering for both. Feathering, in this case, it's kind of like a feather is lightly touching the bass drum. In this case, when we usually kick the bass drum, it sounds like that. Feathering sounds a little bit more softer, like so. A little too loud on that part, that was my fault. I have a heavy foot. But just depending on what kind of foot you have, if it's a light foot, hey, then you're already one step ahead of the game. If you have a heavy foot, it may put a little bit more of a challenge for you, and it's all just a part of just controlling how much energy you're putting forth into the bass drum. Just a nice little feather sound happening here. Just like that, just like that, just like that. Now, when it comes to the snare drum, most cases, sometimes the student may want to use the regular traditional grip in playing on the snare drum swing style. It may be a little bit of a challenge doing that for that one student. So in this case, especially for high school students, if they're already aware of matchstick grip, that could definitely help out as well. So in this case, you already are set up, ride cymbal with your right hand, bass drum is still going. Be sure that your left foot is already on the hi-hat stand, and then of course, left hand matchstick grip-wise on the snare. When you hit the snare, you don't want to hit it right there on the center of the drum, because look what happens. Too loud, way too loud. So in this case, what you want to do is bring the bead of the stick closer to the rim of the snare, because look what happens now. Softer. This is what we call the feathering method. Now, if we were to combine that together with, let's say, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and use the hi-hat first before we bring in our regular skeep-a-doo rhythm. So now we're going to incorporate both bass drum, snare drum, and hi-hat cymbal. So here we go, 5, a 6, and the do, skeep-a-doo, and. Notice how the hi-hat is a lot more louder. Now that was my fault before because I wasn't really closing the hi-hat more. That's why you heard a little bit more reverb. So that was my fault on that part. Just remember, as I said earlier, just be sure that when you press it down on 2 and 4, close the hi-hat. Don't let it open up, otherwise you'll get the sound like you're playing on a crash cymbal. And we don't want that, especially during swing style, only when the occasion calls for it. Now, we're going to incorporate bass drum one more time on counts 1 and 3, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. Now we're going to add the snare. Now we're going to add the hi-hat. Here we go, skip-a-doo. Now we're going to incorporate the ride cymbal. 2, here we go. Now, the reason why why I said use matchstick instead of traditional grip is simply because, as you can see right here, in this case, and this is just coming from personal preference, again, it all just depends on what kind of percussion student or percussion teacher you are, or what kind of drummer you are in general. It's all based on personal preference. In this case, the reason why I don't like to use traditional grip when it comes to playing swing style is, one, even when you bring it close to the rim, it still sounds way too loud. So bringing it to matchstick grip, at least you can restrict that sound just a tad bit more. At least you can still keep the jazz band together, but at the same time, they'll be able to still hear the ride cymbal, and the hi-hat cymbal, which is going to be giving the overall effect for the swing style. So that way, when we put it together, it's do, skeep, a 5, 6, 7, 8. Once again, you hear more cymbals than you hear anything else. In this case, if you find yourself being a little bit out of control or uncoordinated, our best friend above all, and I know not just percussion students, but most band students hate it like heck, but we introduce our good old friend, Mr. Metronome. So now we have Mr. Metronome on to help us out with getting our coordination skills a little bit more up to par. Right now, the chord note is set at 80 beats per minute. So now we can already think about counts 1 and 3, 2, 3, 4, bass drum. Yeah, so it's going to be a very slow swing style. I can guarantee right now, some of your students are going to get annoyed with this. But the way I like to see it, the slower, the better. Because if you can control yourself at a slower tempo, you'll be able to be more in control of a faster tempo. Incorporating the hi-hat now. Almost got a little bit out of tempo there, but at least we fixed it. Incorporating snare. Now we're going to incorporate the ride cymbal. Here we go. Now, in this case, what we want to go ahead and do, once you get yourself acquainted with a tempo that is already, like we have it already at 80 beats per minute, once you feel like you've already accomplished that tempo, then most cases we want to go ahead and increase it to 5 clicks, or sometimes if you want a little bit more of a challenge, we go ahead and increase it to 10 clicks. So now we're at 90 clicks, a little bit more faster now. So let's see how well this goes together. Once again, bass drum on counts 1 and 3. Then we add our hi-hat cymbal. Now add the snare and add the ride cymbal. And you can just do that vice versa all the way through. Once again, you can increase by 5 clicks. In this case, it just depends on how fast your student or yourself is learning. Don't push yourself too much. Don't overdo it on yourself like, oh, this is getting boring. I want to go ahead and increase that tempo. Trust me, I've seen that happen a lot of times. I even done it, and let's just say I had a few percussion students make fun of me as well. So unless you want to be that guy, always start gradually slow and gradually start picking up the tempo as we go along.